Happy Saturday, everyone. Welcome to the DraftKings Daily Trot. I'm Big Italy 42 here, talking about tonight's 12-game slate. And there's a couple pitchers at the top that I'm a big fan of tonight, the guys that I'll be trying to get in my lineups as much as I can. And those guys are Jacob deGrom and Dallas Keuchel. Jacob deGrom facing off against a Washington team that's been one of the worst offenses over the past 30 days. Finally almost healthy. They've got Anthony Rendon back, Jason Worth back. Neither one really producing very much right now. deGrom coming off a great performance against the Dodgers. 7 2/3, just 2 hits, 2 walks, 8 Ks. He's been pitching well recently. Faced this same team on the 21st and went 6 innings, 2 earned runs, 8 Ks, 27.7 DraftKings points. So Jacob deGrom, if you ask me, best pitcher on the mound tonight. I think he's the most talented pitcher. He's probably has the highest upside against this struggling team, 26.1% K rate. So for me, Jacob deGrom's the guy I want to pay for. If I'm not paying for him, then right behind him is Dallas Keuchel, guy with an elite ground ball rate, 63.5%. His strikeout rate at 22.5% is starting to creep up there. Still doesn't look like an elite strikeout pitcher, but if you look at what Dallas Keuchel has done at times, I mean, when he has it going, nobody can touch this guy. 13 Ks against Texas, 12 against the Yankees. And, I mean, the Yankees are a team that absolutely murders left-handed pitching. This guy can mow down any lineup. Arizona's a team that is pretty good against left-handed pitching, but Dallas Keuchel coming off a performance that looks worse on the surface than it really was. 6 2/3, gave up 10 hits and 5 earned runs with 1 home run. All 5 of those earned runs were in the first 2 innings, and I believe 7 of the hits, don't quote me on that, but pretty close. Either way, it was a really bad start. He ended up managing to make it, he got out of the negatives at least. All in all, still a bad DFS performance. But from a real-life perspective, he settled down after the second inning and got it done. This guy has big-time upside. I love playing him. And Vegas agrees. Big-time favorite here, minus 200 right now as I'm recording this. So definitely like those two guys as my top 2 options. DraftKings agrees because they're the most too expensive. Garrett Cole, $10,600. This is a guy with great stuff. He's got big-time upside. But for some reason, this guy cannot pitch against the Cincinnati Reds. So far, he has allowed a .337 average to these current Reds hitters. They're 27 for 80 with 8 extra base hits and 4 homers. Just an 18-8 strikeout to walk ratio. That's not to say that's going to continue, but quite a few guys here with decent BVP against him as well. So maybe it's a mental thing with Garrett Cole, but maybe this is the time that he finally mows down the Reds because they don't strike out a lot, but this is still not a great offense. Right about league average. Garrett Cole certainly has upside. More of a tournament option for me. Lance Lynn, another guy that's interesting, $10,200 facing off against Colorado, which Corey Dickerson now back on the DL. Obviously, Tulowitzki out of town. Carlos Gonzalez is really the only guy that's hitting the ball for this team right now, so you've got to like Lance Lynn at $10,200. Really not playing Cole Hamels at $9,800 despite coming off that incredible performance. We saw Madison Bumgarner, another elite lefty, struggle there last night against Texas, who doesn't even hit lefties well. I'm just not a fan of targeting a lot of pitchers in that park right now with all those weather conditions, it being so hot. So for me, that's a pass. The cheap guys I'm looking at, though, Aaron Nola, $5,700. The guy has been solid over his first few starts. He's given up 3 home runs. That's really his only weakness, though. One of them was to a pitcher. But this is one of the highly touted prospects in all of baseball. 23.1% strikeout rate so far, 51.4% ground ball rate. This is a guy that's going to have a bright future. I love him at $5,700 against an Atlanta team that, yes, they're now healthy with Freddie Freeman, but this is still just not a very good offense, right about league average. I like him a good deal tonight. Outside of him, really no one that I love. I mean, Chris Sesson's the guy that's pitched well, but he's not very good against left-handed batters on the season. 321 WOBA allowed, much better against righties. I don't love the situation for him. Texas tied for the highest team total on the night. At $5,000, if you want to take a shot in the tournament, he's much better than that price tag. I just don't know if this is the matchup to target him. So I guess you could go that way in a tournament. Other guy would be Matt Whistler. I don't love that either, though. Philly finally starting to hit. They had a big game last night. Whistler's been decent. He's not a big strikeout guy, though. 7,200 is kind of pricey for him. So maybe it's like a filler in some stacks and tournaments just because he's fairly cheap. But the other guy I would consider is Kyle Hendricks, $7,100, coming off a bad start against Colorado. But this is a guy that certainly has some upside, and this is also a Milwaukee team that is now missing Gerardo Parra. They're missing Carlos Gomez. There's not a whole lot left to this offense. So get Kyle Hendricks in there, a guy with some decent upside, 20.5% strikeout rate. Everything else right around league average. But, I mean, this is a guy that could definitely pay off his $7,100 price tag for you tonight. All right, catcher options. Buster Posey gets a lefty. It's a good lefty in Cole Hamels, but you like that in Texas at Arlington Park. So he's certainly in play. On the Yankee side, Brian McCann's the second most expensive guy. I don't love playing him against lefties. He's certainly in play if he's there. I hope that John Ryan Murphy's in the lineup. He's $2,400. He's really been producing when he's been in the lineup. That's a guy I'll be targeting quite a bit if he's there. Jesus Montero, $3,200. He's a guy that doesn't have a great lineup spot, but some big-time upside. Kyle Schwarber, of course, $3,500. Matt Garza, on the tail end of his career, not a very good pitcher at this point right now. Outside of those guys, Derek Norris finally starting to hit a couple of nice games in a row. $3,200 for him. I don't think he's a bad option either. And then if you're looking cheap, Matt Wieder's still too cheap. Baltimore, another one of those teams tied for the highest team total in the night. So I'm looking at them. And then one more guy, and I do love Dallas Keuchel. If there's one guy that I'll throw against him in a tournament, it's going to be the hot hitter, Wellington Castillo. It's $2,800. And, I mean, the guy has 4 home runs in his last 3 games. Did play last night. Not necessarily an everyday player, so make sure he's in the lineup. And really not a guy I love, but I mean, at $2,800, he does have some upside if Keuchel gets messy. First base options. Mark Teixeira had an enormous game last night, 45 DraftKings points, which followed up his 35-point performance the time before. 6 hits, including 4 home runs and a double in his last 2 games. This guy's having an enormous season. Gets one of the worst pitchers in all of baseball in John Danks. I guess that's subjective. Take that however you'd like. Maybe you're a John Danks fan. I am not. Love Mark Teixeira. He's my top option. Goldschmidt against a lefty. It is Keuchel, though. Really not going that route. Outside of maybe a single bullet. Jose Abreu, $5,000 against Mitchell. You got to like him. Then as you're looking down for a little bit of value, Anthony Rizzo's now homered in 3 straight games. You like him. Freddie Freeman against Nola. If I'm playing anyone against Nola, it's going to be Freeman. I'm not a fan of any of these other Atlanta hitters. So I think he's fine. Prince Fielder against Chris Heston. I mentioned Heston struggles against lefties. Fielder having a great season so far. Not as much power as you'd like, but you got to like him. But I think if I'm paying down a little bit from Teixeira, it's probably going to be for Chris Davis. Highest team total of the day, tied there for Baltimore. Home run struggles for Anibal Sanchez. And $4,400 I think is a really good price tag. I'm really not paying down tonight at first base. Second base options. I love Brian Dozier against the lefty. Obviously, I'm not alone in this. He's $4,900. He's in a great spot. Other guys to consider, Neil Walker, right below there, $4,000 against Raisel Iglesias. You got to like him. Brandon Phillips is one of the few Reds guys that does have some BVP against Garrett Cole. $3,800 may be pricey, but had a couple nice games in a row. I mean, obviously not going to recreate that 54-point performance 2 nights ago, but 11 points last night. Solid performance for him. As you look at cheaper, Rougned Odor, $3,600. Probably going to be my cash game play tonight against Chris Heston. I love him. Jimmy Paredes as well at $3,300. He got a nice little decrease in price. Cesar Hernandez, one of those guys at the top of that order. I love to target him. He's $3K. Probably not going to dip much deeper than those guys, though. Third base options. You've got Alex Rodriguez at the top, and you want some Yankees tonight. You're going to need some Yankees tonight. I know you hear this every time, and every once in a while, John Danks puts up a good performance, but I mean, this lineup right now is out of their minds. They're putting up a ton of runs, seemingly every night. So 2 nights ago they struggled, but 15 last night, 21 3 nights ago. This is the best offense in baseball right now, and I want as many pieces of them as I can, especially against a gas can like John Danks. Other options, Miguel Sano and Trevor Plouffe both get a lefty, and Michael Montgomery, who's been struggling. Todd Frazier gets Garrett Cole. You don't love the matchup there, but he has had some success against him in the small amount of time that they've faced each other. He's 5 for 14 with 2 homers and 4 extra base hits. So there's your BVP special at the hot corner. Other guys, Matt Carpenter's been hot, but he's in a lefty-lefty matchup. He's not a terrible hitter against lefties, but not a guy I'm going out of my way to roster. Kyle Seager's cheap at $3,600. Same goes for Tyler Saladino. He's cheap for his recent production, not cheap in this matchup necessarily, but $3,600, I think he's a nice tournament option. Luis Valbuena, you always consider him in tournaments. He's $3,300. Got bumped down to, I believe, 7th last night, so you don't like that, but you got to love his upside. Shortstop options, Jung Ho Kang. Got to love him tonight. 3 doubles last night, homers in 2 of his last 4 games. 3,700. He's a great play. Johnny Peralta gets a lefty, and Jorge De La Rosa has been really struggling with the long ball. He's probably going to be a pretty chalky play as well. 3,600 for him. Carlos Correa, though, if I'm paying up, is the guy I'm going with against Jeremy Hellickson. Correa homered again last night. Hellickson with those reverse splits throughout his career. Those are really the only guys I'm targeting at shortstop tonight. No one else really jumping off the page, and I think those guys are kind of head and shoulders above the rest. Outfield options. Nelson Cruz had a monster game last night. Gets a contact pitcher in Kyle Gibson tonight, so you're certainly considering him as you're building your lineups. Bryce Harper, a guy I played in some tournaments last night, not a guy I'm targeting tonight. Jacob deGrom has been phenomenal against left-handed batters this season, allowing just a 249 WOBA. I mean, obviously there's a chance that Bryce Harper could take anyone deep, but not willing to pay to find out tonight against deGrom. Brett Gardner and Jacoby Ellsbury, take your pick. You got to love those guys. But for me, Andrew McCutcheon's the guy I want to pay up for against Raisel Iglesias. He's been absolutely on fire. He's been doing it all. The only thing he hasn't really been doing recently is stealing bases, but he's getting on base. He's hitting home runs. Got to like him quite a bit tonight. Other options, Ryan Braun against Kyle Hendricks. Really the only Milwaukee back outside of maybe Jonathan Lucroy you're considering tonight. JD Martinez, of course, against Kevin Gausman. All he did was homer again yesterday. He's up to 28 on the season, so you got to like him. Other options to consider. Here's another guy who's starting to get it going. Justin Upton did not get dealt at the trade deadline, but he's a nice tournament option. Texas lefties, Josh Hamilton, Shin-Soo Choo, both those guys in play for me here tonight in this matchup. Should be a lot of runs scored there once again. Gerardo Parra has had some success against Anibal Sanchez, 3,900. I don't know where he'll be batting for Baltimore. I hope it's at the top of the order. If it is, I absolutely love him tonight. Cash, GPP, whatever it may be. Same goes for Gregory Polanco. Just another solid performance. This guy doesn't have a huge upside, but he's got a great floor. I mean, he gets hits, he steals bases, he scores runs. You got to like him a lot. Other guys to consider, Aaron Hicks struggled last night, but he's been hitting the ball really well. Also, Preston Tucker at 3,700. Got a little bit of a price bump there, but he's certainly a guy that I'm still considering. Colby Rasmus, another cheap source of power against Jeremy Hellickson, who, to be fair, has been pitching better, but not a guy that I'm shying away from. Chris Young, I mean, he's going to be a very chalky play in cash games. Everyone's going to be on him, $3,100, rightfully so, against the terrible John Danks. So do not miss out. That's probably the one guy at any position that you're going to need to have in your cash games tonight because he has monstrous upside now. A guy I talked about last night, paid off in a big-time way, Dom Brown, up to $2,800 tonight. Still very cheap, though. Gets Matt Whistler, more of a contact pitcher than anything, so I'm certainly looking at him as my my favorite cheap option. As far as $2,000 guys go, Adonis Garcia hit a double last night. The guy's not a big upside play, but at $2,000 if you need it, I'm going to get two of these top pitchers. Certainly the best way that you can go there in the outfield at 2K. Outside of that, nobody really jumping off the page. Justin Maxwell, though, $2,400. It's a tough matchup against Cole Hamels, but usually plays against lefties. Keep your eye on this one because this isn't a outfield that's now completely healthy, so maybe he doesn't play. But if he's in this lineup, even if he's batting 7th or 8th, I want to get a piece of him at the Rangers. So that's going to wrap things up. Find us on Twitter at DF Cafe. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. Check out all of our great content at dailyfantasycafe.com.